Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here. Today I'm going to be talking about a collection of field guides, specifically for the state of Ohio, that I've had for many years now. And they're just a great resource to, of course, reference, like any field guide. And these are in particular the Ohio Division of Wildlife field guides. Now, these are mostly pertaining to teachers and educators, but I guess the general public can get them too. You can get them at your local wildlife resources office like I did here, and also a couple of nature centers around the area, such as Cedar Bog. I think I've gotten several of the field guides from there. And so I've collected these over the years. There's about, looks like 15, maybe the 20 of these. I believe this is all of them, or most of them at least, but they kind of make new ones every other year or so. And they also have some more up-to-date ones. The publication date is on the back of each one. And so some of these are kind of like over a decade old, but so they may vary, I guess, in the images and the data and the information that is contained in each one at least. And so, yeah. So I'm just basically gonna go through all these, or just briefly, and kind of just share, some more details about them, and I'll have a link down in the description. I'm not sponsored, of course, but I just want to give a shout out to these resources that are very nice, and ones that I've especially used in my early days of birding and photography in general for wildlife. So we're going to go through each one here a little bit. Some of these have accompanying CDs that come with them. I don't have them actually, I think, anymore. I used to, that have, like, in particular for like this Common Birds of Ohio field guide. They have a CD of different calls and songs, of course, that are each track is labeled, of course, so that way you can easily identify it. Obviously nowadays this is a little bit dated, but nowadays we just use Merlin or like an Audubon app to get your field guide audio, I guess, ready on your phone. But these are still nice resources. I like to keep these in my car. I have a whole another set of these entire field guides that I keep in my glove box in my car, or the center console of the car, just to reference if I'm ever out on the road, or give me some nice reading material to brush up on, or whatever it may be. So yeah, just basically gonna go through each one here. So as you can see, you usually have a nice little like cover, of course. These are just like stapled together paper ones, so they're not waterproof, they're not hardcover by any means, but so they can get a little bent in the corners and worn down. But should you take care of them, they should work out pretty well, I think, for your uses. And then if you see here, there's nice more resources at least about each one and some of the locations you may find, the most common birding hotspots and things like that. And then it just simply goes through each different type of bird. It lays it out, and like I said, if you have the CD track, the track list, it'll give you that, so you can correspond that information with the CD, of course. And so it goes through each one. It gives different characterizations of it, physical attributes, maybe some like written out responses to the vocalization calls and stuff like that. It gives you a different range, at least, different kinds of habitat you may find it in, and the best spots. Now, the best spots is a little skewed information-wise. Not that I'm saying it's incorrect, but just with time, of course, these field guides may be slightly outdated as the climate changes, of course, year by year, and migration patterns change and ebb and flow, of course. But also, these aren't the only. This isn't an exhaustive list of the best spots you may find these kind of birds at, and so therefore, there's many, many more spots, of course. They pertain mainly to ones that are like owned by the state of Ohio, and are like state parks, state nature preserves, and any wildlife areas. So of course, in your local area, if you're from the state, you're probably going to have your own local patches where like birds like this can be found, of course. But so just bear with that and keep that in mind as you look through it. Obviously, these aren't the only spots. It just says the best spots that are under their ownership and maintenance and jurisdiction. So it goes through each one here. It's a pretty nice list. Has nice color photographs that are like just basically portraits of each bird, which is really helpful. Gives you some fun facts, some fast facts that is, about different birds, and even gives you some contact info here in there too, and just some more information about the Division of Wildlife, like getting a license plate or the wildlife stamps and all that kind of stuff. And so very nice. Next one here is the Warblers of Ohio. It's much the same. It has a CD guidebook, and it goes through each one. It even has the spectrograms of each warbler song, because identifying warblers is obviously pretty tough for a novice birder, but it's nice to have these spectrograms as you get more skilled, so that when you're recording them, let's say on the Merlin Sound ID app, you can pick them apart through the spectrograms and how their calls are. So these should stay pretty consistent, which is nice. But of course, they can always vocalize and make different sounds at least. There's a couple more hot spots and stuff, talking more about each location that they're listing out here, of course, and even some conservation. And so I'm not going to go through like in detail with these, but like in this particular Warblers guidebook, there is like a range map that actually shows you, as you can see, the colored areas, shows you the areas that the range is they're basically commonly seen at. Even has a seasonal abundance. You can see it's laid out by month throughout the year, and just some other facts and information about it. So once again, and here's even some birding groups and organizations that you may find them in, and give you some more information that way. So it's nice because these are a nice, like I said, free resource, and they are fairly widely available. The easiest place besides visiting your local office is just to get online. Like I said, I'll leave a link in the description, and you can order as many as you can or want. And so you obviously don't need to get like the entire collection here. You can always just like pick out your favorites or the ones you want to use the most. So I've managed to, over the years, collect a whole variety of them. As you can see, let's see, pages fell out of that one because I've used Waterbirds one a lot. And so there's just a wealth of resources, and these are really nice field guides. So here's a Raptors one. Just goes through. Now see, this one has a little bit of a more updated format. Some of these are much newer than the other ones, and since Raptors, there's a lot less Raptors, let's say, than like Warblers and common birds. This one kind of like picks apart stuff, because you're going to see much more raptors in flight and birds of prey. So it gives you even like the wingspan, like the size, and also shows you like characteristics, like for this rough-legged hawk, a dark wing patch down there. So, and there's photos of them in flight, as you can see, close-up photos, and then also one of them perched, which is pretty cool. And it's pretty sciencey stuff, of course. You don't need to get this detailed if you just appreciate like backyard birds, of course. The Common Birds of Ohio would be a nice resource, I think. But if you're really into just any nature and wildlife, you could find that very useful. So yeah, here's an owl one. And this one's nice because it gives you full-size pages. You know, it's got the bird itself, obviously the name, gives you some more details like up here, or rather, you know, back here for the great horned owl in particular. It really gives you some details of their habits, their diet, their nesting, which is just very useful to have all these kind of resources. And so it goes over a whole lot, even includes some sort of some rare or even vagrant species like long-eared owl. So those are pretty commonplace here. And so, pretty nice. Here's a mammals field guide, just kind of a general overview. As you can see, there's rodents and mice and voles, muskrats, lemmings. Even goes through all the bats, because we do have quite a lot of bats in the Midwest here, which is, you know, pretty useful at least. Then goes through butterflies and skippers, so plenty of different characteristics and stuff about each one. And this one even breaks it down by, instead of just like a range map, it breaks it down by counties. It doesn't really label them, as you can see, so they're just a bunch of like little squares and shapes. But as long as you know your general area and your county, of course, you can see which ones are most abundant based on this, in this example, the orange ones versus the ones that are just not highlighted by white. or by orange rather, they are white. And so it's nice because it shows even the larvae, and you know, that wings outstretched, and then also the kind of like the side, I guess, profile view of the particular butterfly, or in this case skippers, which are a different kind of flying species. And then even goes to some state listed ones. So these are ones that are like very hard to find, and in some cases rare. And so you may have some luck someday, and you may actually seek out them and find them, which would be pretty cool. So here's a moth one. Just once again goes through all the different moths and stuff. Very nice resource. So, and dragonflies and damselflies. Here's a nice one too. I've learned a lot from looking at this one over the years. And look at these, because they're just such tiny little insects, the odonata, like these guys, that it's nice to have these large full-size page you know, images of them, of course. And as you can see, just kind of, I don't know, comparing to my hand here, these aren't very big, so like I said earlier, they're nice to kind of fit in the glove box of your car or your backpack or your camera bag, and gives you a lot of options to travel around with them. Just make sure that you're not really keeping them in like damp or moist environments, or taking them out in the rain, because you're going to ruin them pretty easily. But it's just kind of like one of the, I guess, the downsides, but you know, for being a free resource, you can't complain too much. This is actually a newer field guide for them. They released in a couple years ago, Common Wetland Plants of Ohio, kind of like partnership with the H2 Ohio Act, which is a very nice thing that we have here now to protect Ohio's great lakes, the Lake Erie in particular, and the waterways and rivers that are around here that call this place home. So it goes through everything with wetland plants, gives you the groups and even the families, and even the common bloom times as well. So these are very nice resources. Spring wildflowers, so that's another great one. You know, goes over, it might overlap a little bit with like the wetlands one in particular, depending on the season and what type of wildflower it is. But as you can see, it just goes through a general overview and more or less separates them by the month in their bloom time, but also in this case like the colors and stuff, as you can see from the side here. So it's going to show you white to green wildflowers. You can just kind of refer to the side here, at least with that. Here's Trees of Ohio. As you can see, it's a little worn, the ink at least up here. I've used this one a lot too. It also is a very nice one. Breaks down each one by bark structure and leaves, if it produces like fruits or berries or nuts or anything of that sort, and it even has like a wider scaled image of what the tree looks like in bloom or with leaves. And so it's really nice because obviously with trees and identifying them, there's a lot of different ways you can do that, based on the, like I said, the berries, the fruits it produces, the leaves as it grows them in the spring, or has them in the summer, and as they fall in the autumn. So, and here's even an image for this big tooth aspen that shows two different leaves and the coloration of it, of course. And it even goes over the branches and stems of a lot of the trees, and whether it's alternate or opposing sides for the leafing out and the branching and stuff on both deciduous and coniferous trees. And so it's pretty nice. You even got common lichens, so that's another great one. Just goes over all the different lichens, of course, as you can expect. So it's a whole different world right there that I'm still learning. It's like so much to that, at least. And then there's reptiles. Of course, some people love them, some people hate them. I think they have a bad reputation, but they are still necessary for their survival and for our ecosystems, of course, and they do benefit from existing whether you like them or not. So as we get down the list here, as you can see, I kind of have these organized on my bookshelf when I have them just placed there and displayed by birds, then kind of some wildflowers, then some more trees and things like that, And then I get down to, like, as you can see with these reptiles, amphibians, kind of going down to the more macro stuff with butterflies, skippers, dragonflies, damselflies. This one has, of course, frogs, salamanders. You know, you can just kind of at a glance see what this one's all about. Most of these are laid out pretty similarly, I would say, and they really are really good at just giving an overview, as a field guide would, of course, of the different things you may encounter. Here's bees and wasps, so once again, just kind of that stuff. Common spiders, it's also another one that's you may ooh, look at that. You may choose to get, so that one's also an option. As we get down here, millipedes, so got this one as well. Just different ones. Like I said, I'm just very briefly going over these. And freshwater snails, so these ones at the bottom because I have the least experience with kind of the water ecosystems and organisms that grow and live and thrive in those. But if you really want to get in this stuff, you know, this is a good one to pick up, of course. And then the last ones in my list on my stack are the fishes ones. So here's a stream fishes and then a sport fishes if you choose to fish. So these are kind of, I would say, you know, really catered towards people that are wildlife enthusiasts. Like I said, teachers, educators. They're just a very nice resource. And if you're a nature enthusiast or a citizen naturalist like I am, these are a great way to learn more about the local wildlife in your state. If you're not from Ohio, I bet there is your own different or similar field guides such as these. And so, you know, I think they're well worth the free expense, and it's a great way to support and bring more awareness, which I hope to do with this video of the Division of Wildlife and what kind of work they do in order to promote conservation and to preserve our ecosystems and wildlife and all that stuff. So I think with that being said, that's it for the video here, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. You know, it's a nice resource, like I keep saying, and I hope you check it out, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching.